Hi everyone. This is a book report on Unlikely Warrior by Georg Rock. So let me start out by giving you guys a introductory quote just to give you a taste. Then, when someone is killed, a terrible wailing begins. There is weeping and at the same time the singing of some short, monotonous sounding phrases. First of all, the closest relatives run weeping and singing through the village streets to announce their sorrow. Soon thereafter, all the women of the village come to the body, and each sings a crying prayer, or stanza, before she disappears again. In this manner, they all file past. The men pay no attention whatsoever, but hammer around on a coffin a few meters farther away. Then, in the presence of 30 to 40 women, accompanied by intense wailing, the body is washed and buried immediately. So, for a quick summary, the book begins with Roke standing at a training camp, where he sees word that he's going to be recruited to be an officer. However, Roke has other plans. He marches to the office of the commanding officer, and tells him that he has Jewish ancestry, and because of this, he is ineligible to become an officer. This is extraordinary because this officer is a fanatical Nazi. And considering that he's Jewish, that's remarkable that he had this amount of bravery. And because he did this, his courses changed radically. And this leads him to fight in Russia and later be captured by the Russians. He then fights his circumstances viciously, and by the miracle of luck and youth, he is eventually recruited by the Russians to do spy work in his home. And through the spying, he eventually was able to see his family and then start his life again after World War II. So, let's get into an analysis. So for some advantages, Roke builds the setting very well. And through building the setting, he really creates emotional appeal very, very well. And I have a passage to show you this. Since yesterday, there has been an overwhelmingly strong snowstorm with temperatures under minus 20 centigrade. I've never experienced anything like it. This morning, someone made a joke, and I wanted to laugh, but was only able to produce a strange grimace. That made me very sad. I've always liked so much to laugh. Here, I'm completely forgetting how. And that's on page 119. So, another major advantage of this book that Roke does very well is how he alternates the style of writing. So he tells the events of the story in a regular storytelling manner, so chronologically. But later in the book, he starts writing letters. So, for example, he starts it with, "Dear Moody, da-da-da-da-da." And through his letter writing style, we get an insight into his mind about what's gripping him, what's affecting him, that usually the events of the story would not allow the reader to understand. So that was possibly the best part of the book, was how he alternates the style of writing. But there are also some weaknesses, such as he uses informal language and phrasing, and when he uses complex language, it feels as if it's out of place, which really is a big issue that affects the book very much. Also, this book lacks many features of developed writers, and such techniques such as motif, metaphors are just completely absent in the book, which, even though it is a biography, you would expect some level of complexity that you just don't get. And another thing is that sometimes a writing style is very typical and thus very boring, and he has very little sentence variation, which creates issues throughout the book. So, in conclusion, I'd say that this book is very good. It tells a fascinating story, and does it fairly effectively. However, there are some very, very large weaknesses that do stand out. And because of this, I would say that I do recommend the book, but it's not a great book for students to make a book report on. So that's it. Thank you.